Alright guys, so again, I've got a Power Commander 5 plugged into an Autotune with a Pod 300. Again, just a gauge slash data logger. You don't need it. Anyway, we're going to jump into the Autotune stuff. So I've plugged into my Power Commander with my laptop. I've opened up just a stock 09 Raptor map from Dynojet's website. So I'm going to just pretend like I've got a naturally aspirated build here, and we're going to turn on the Autotune and get it set up to go. So we're going to configure. I'm going right past all this. I'm not worried about it. We're going right to feature enables and input selections. Okay. We're just going to turn on Autotune. If you want to turn it on to a switch, that's good too. I can show you why in a minute. But I'm just going to turn it on so it stays on. And it doesn't start doing its thing or changing your fuel percentages until either you set a runtime for however many seconds, 30 seconds, it doesn't matter, or after your engine reaches a certain temperature. I kind of like this one if you do have your idle already tuned. It's kind of nice. But anyway, these, like I've said, are your enrichment and enleanment. This one, your enrichment, is saying it's telling Autotune that it can add 20% of fuel or take away 20% of fuel. I like to leave it at 20 and 20 right there. Of course, this is a Raptor. We're only running one sensor. Some of the V-twin guys run two, or etc. But anyway, so we're going to leave these off for now because we got to tune the idle first. And we'll just leave that on. Okay, so we've got it ready to go. So what it's done now that I've turned it on is it's added a Autotune table here. And again, this is just the fuel map it thinks is right for stock 09, and ignition, it's not gonna change anything on ignition for you, but just leave that alone unless you know what you're doing. But anyway, back to the Autotune table here. So my target AFRs, we're going to be idling in this range right here. Maybe I'll bring that even up to 2500 for right now, or even past that, really, just for right now. Let's try and idle at AFR of 13 to 1. This 13.2 is just what it's put in itself, or what it has come with. But so it's wanting 13 at wide open throttle, 80% and 60% after 3750 RPM once you get moving. I'm going to leave all that alone. So now that this is set right here for my idle, because that's what I'm going to start with, I'm going to send the map. And after the map's sent, you can send the table. And the table are your Autotune tables. So, and this trim, this is what the Autotune is going to change. And I'll show you that right now. Let's start at my bike. This is an 860 turbo, so I'm gonna, I don't even know where to change this right now, but we'll try negative 18 here just to get it to work to start, because this is the wrong map for this bike. But okay, so the key's on. You'll see that the Autotune O2 sensor pulls up some data there, and your stuff over here is self-explanatory. I'm not going to explain it. I have a turbo, so my pressure's set up, throttle, RPM. Let's start it, or see if it'll start with this percentage. Okay, so it takes a minute for the Autotune to come on. So we're idling a little rich. You'll see this is making adjustments right here. So if I click get table, there's some adjustments. So now if I go to map, Autotune tables, accept all trims, yes, it's going to add that percentage to my fuel table. I had negative 18, now it's up to negative 35. Send map. I'm going to send my table again, and you can see my air to fuel is changing. Okay, I don't even know if you heard me talking, but I'll explain what just happened. So my air to fuels were 13. My trim is what actually is adjusted, or what it shows where your adjustments are made. So I don't know if you saw that, but when I first started it up, we were at 11 point something, which was pretty rich. So since my AFRs wanted 13, it wanted to pull fuel. So if you looked at fuel adjustment when it was going, it said negative 18, to negative 20. It was trying to adjust it, and it was adjusting it right then. And adding it to the fuel map, it just wasn't enough to get it to the 13 AFR. So what I did, since that was maxed out, and what you'll do anyway, is you'll do get map, get table, and see it already pulled more data, but it wants to take away 1% here, 1% here, and negative 15% right there. So that's probably maybe where I was idling most, or where it was at the most for the most time. It needs time to take away the right amount. It doesn't just instantaneously get you right to the 13 AFR you want, which is what a lot of people think and make a mistake. So anyway, I came in here and I did map, Autotune tables, accept all trims. Yes, accept those, and then it changes your fuel map. So I was all negative 18s, but then when I started accepting my trims, it changes your fuel map. And these are percentages. You don't need to truly understand like your injector duty cycle and all that. Just understand that these are percentages. So if you're in your trim and you have -1, it's not just going to change this -36 to a -37. It's a percentage. The 1% may not even change it. I don't know. But just know that much. So you don't think it's not working, but it is, if that makes sense. Anyway, so since that's changed, I'm going to send the map, send the table, and I'm gonna keep doing this till my idle is good. And then once my idle is right where I want it on my AFRs, and you can watch this little yellow box when it's moving around on the table. By the way, that yellow box is options, environment options, and enable this table cell tracer. I do it for 0.25 seconds, but you can see where that yellow box is for your idle. Once it's where I want it, I come back here to my target AFRs and I just delete these. because I don't want it changing those now. If I left it on and tomorrow I came and started this bike when it was cold, it may start changing it. The AFRs while the bike's cold instead of at its operating temperature where you want it to be tuned. So that is why I come in here and get rid of these. And that's another reason in your configuration why your Autotune configuration, the engine temperature is kind of nice, or the time. I think engine temperature is better. Obviously, you never know what the outside temperature is, but you can let it get up to whatever temperature, operating temperature, and then let it start making changes. Or you just turn it to a switch. And the switch, the reason I like it is for when you're actually out tuning beyond this idle. Sorry, I just turned that off. So, but we'll just leave this on. Anyway, so from here on out, you're going to go to your 2, 5, 10, 15% and get these where you want them. And if you're really changing them, try and change them gradually. I think that helps with your tune. Like if you wanted to get up to 14, maybe at 5%, 13.6 and so on. Don't just go right from 13 to 14. You can do it, but it'll be a little smoother transition. Anyway, so what you're gonna do from here on out is get tires that you can go down the road on, or paddles, and do it out on the sand where your tires aren't just gonna slip on dirt, which is another mistake people make. And God, these aren't just, you do these as a 0 and it won't change them. But so then I would start my bike up and I would just go out, and start giving a little throttle, maybe 2 to 10 to 15, just in these lower RPMs. And if you don't have a Pod 300 or an air fuel gauge, you need to be careful, so you don't toast your motor. And stay in this range. Don't go out. Just stay in this range consistently, until you work your tune up. But then you'll go for a little 30-second drive, whatever. And again, just work yourself up to 10% throttle, and then to 20, and then 40, and so on. So you're not hurting your motor going right to 100% throttle. That's got to make sense to you guys. So then you'll come back, plug in your power commander, do get map, get table, and you should have trims here. Auto-tune trims. Let's see, we were just going to like 4,000 RPM, 10 to 15% throttle. So you'll have trims here. And you can see what your bike wants and is doing. If it's wanting to add 20% fuel in some spots, then your bike is lean. If it's negative 20 or what have you, then your bike is rich and it's wanting to take away fuel. Now, if your bike's only got through here like, a 1, a 2, a 5, a 7, just smaller percentages, you're pretty close to what your AFR, your wanted AFR, and I would just accept those trims. If I had all negative 20s through here, I may come highlight this whole thing and change them to negative 30s, just because I know it's going to want to take out more. But whatever it gives you, then you'd come up here, auto tunes, accept all trims, yes. So now it's added it to your fuel table, and then send map, send table, and now go out and repeat the procedure. It's a lot easier if you have an air to fuel ratio gauge, or if you have a Pod 300. If you have a Pod 300, you can data log your run while you're out there. And I'm just going to open up a table just to show you what it looks like essentially. This is in Excel format, which is how you export it. So here I have throttle position, I have engine RPM, I have my air to fuel ratio, and in this case, boost, your PSI. So as you can see, this is just a full throttle run up a hill, but that's why I'm 100%. Engine RPM, your air to fuel ratio. So in this case, I know at 100% throttle at around 68 to 7,000 RPM in there, I was between 11.4 and 12.4. Well, if that's where I want my tune, then great, I'll leave it. If I need to be at 14, then I know right there I need to add some fuel. So that's where data logging is so useful. Um, and then you can see, you can see where you're shifting. Um, it helps you in the drag world if you're trying to go fast, and also just helps you get a super good tune on the bike, um, just for a duner or whatever. And it also comes with the software. Well, you got to download it, and you can actually have a graph instead of these numbers, which some people prefer. I do too. If it's a new bike I'm tuning, I use graphs. If I'm trying to fine tune, I use the 6L sheet. But anyway, so that's the base auto tune with a naturally aspirated build. I'll do the turbo stuff next.